So this has been a pretty big story in New Jersey for the past couple of weeks. And when I initially saw it, my first thought was this was given so much attention, not because the accusations or any of the issues in it aren't relevant, but because there is this infighting that's taking place within our political sphere here within the state. And so it seemed more like a salvo, like a distraction, jangling keys, right? But now, well, here we are. Because this is pretty gross. It's coming to us from New Jersey 101.5. New Jersey judge who went easy on accused prep school forced entryist steps down. It's written by Sergio Beccato and David Mathau. A family court judge who believed that a prep school student should get easy treatment after he was accused of forcibly entering a 16-year-old girl is hanging up his robes for good following a public firestorm about his comments. The state Supreme Court on Wednesday accepted Judge James Turano's request to be removed from the bench on the same day that they suspended another judge for telling a forced entry victim that she should close her legs, starting the procedure to remove him from office. Yikes. The state's court system on Wednesday also announced sex crime training for all judges. The training will apply to the hundreds of judges that serve in state, from the Supreme Court all the way down to local municipal courts, where nearly half of the state's domestic violence cases are heard. Big problem that we have here in New Jersey is that our judgeships are appointed. They're not elected. And I recognize that having elected judges has its own problems, but the issue with judge appointments is that really a judgeship isn't much more than a political favor. And that's how you end up with such insensitive judges. Toriano was already retired, but was serving on recall, getting paid $40,000 in stipends last year in addition to his $124,000 pension to help fill vacancies on the bench. That's another reason why this case feels a little jacked up, not because of like anything that they particularly said, but because we are already behind when it comes to judge appointments here in the state. So you're kind of just depleting that resource even more. But no, get these folks out if they are treating and hold on, when it comes to the legal process, right? A big important part of the legal process is determining whether a victim is actually a victim or that that alleged needs to come off. So what these judges really got roped up in wasn't particularly in like in the case in the courtroom, but just pretrial pretrial notions that they either approved or disapproved, so that's really where a lot of this is stemming from. And it's pretty awful what they've said, but also in order to come to the conclusion that you have a victim or the accuser is a forced entryist, you have to have a trial and you have to go through this process. So this is a bit of insanity. The top court's orders do not specifically address the controversy that Toriano's words sparked this summer after New Jersey 101.5 reported on this and another juvenile case in the state's family court. A Change.org petition had more than 89,000 signatures calling for Toriano to be removed, and Toriano's family told the New York Times that they have received death threats. That is never cool, guys. Never cool. More than a dozen state lawmakers called for the removal of both Toriano and family court judge Marcia Silva, who caused a stir when she argued that a 12-year-old forced entry victim did not suffer enough. Wait, what? Wow, that is... here's the thing. When it comes to judgments, everything in context. I would love to have more context to her statements as well as Toriano's, even though I think Toriano's is a bit different because he was seeking leniency. No. The prosecutors wanted a forced entry case to be tried as an adult. He said he's a good kid from a good home and stuff like that, and he wanted to keep it in juvenile. Now, the higher courts overturned these decisions, which is what the higher court is for. But at the same time, these are also choices that are made before trial. Like I'm after someone's convicted, I'm happy calling the person who went through the trauma a victim. The same way I'm happy calling the alleged a convicted at that point. But we also have to remember that there is the presumption of innocence that needs to be adhered to as well. The top court's actions on Wednesday also do not mention Silva, but in a written statement, Chief Justice Stuart Rabner acknowledges recent events that says the judges must follow the law, even if the outcome may be unpopular. That both the accused and the accuser deserve fair treatment, and that discipline of judges requires a careful examination of the full record in context, not a rush to judgment. I talk about that all the time here on the channel, don't I? We need everything in its full context. And even with Silva's alleged remarks, I'm missing a ton of context. Additionally, Rabner said, every effort must be made not to re-victimize a victim. You still have to establish, Judge Rabner, you still have to establish their victim status, though. The only disciplinary action the top court is taking against Superior Court Judge John Russo Jr., an advisory panel had previously recommended that Russo be suspended without pay for 3 months, a recommendation that Russo was willing to accept. But the Supreme Court on Wednesday began proceedings that could eventually remove him from the bench. In the meantime, he will be suspended without pay. In addition to violating rules on several occasions, including ruling on an alimony case in which he knew both parties, Russo was taken to task for letting a forced entry victim during a forced entry victim during a restraining order hearing in 2016 that she could run away, call the police, or close your legs in order to stop somebody from having intercourse with you. I really need the context for that, because all of that is except for the whole technically you could close your legs. Seeing the differences, and this is where the gender crowd who like to pretend that men and women aren't different, this is where they probably their heads would explode, because seeing how men and women are completely different. Men tend to be stronger and they can just force the damn things open, but but at the same time, I believe there needs to be some context to this. Yet saying that really to anybody who who's claiming to have been a victim, a bit more tact is definitely called for. But that's the thing about New Jersey. We're a bunch of dicks, okay? Jersey may not realize it, but we are a-holes, man. So are the judges, right? Juvenile cases are kept secret to protect the identities of the defendants, but Silva and Toriano's comments became public record last month after the appellate division overturned the decisions to deny prosecutors' request to try the teens as adults. Toriano questioned whether the attack on the drunk girl at a party, which the teen is accused of recording on his phone, yikes, and then sending to his friends with the caption, "When your first time having sex is forced entry." Wow. Really was forced entry because there was no weapon. Wait, what? Toriano said the boy, an Eagle Scout, attended a good private school and worried that pressing charges in adult court could ruin his life. Which, honestly, so is there evidence of this? Not saying that I want to see the evidence as a civilian or anything else like that, but if the judge, if they're still in the middle of discovery and everything else like that, I can see him, wanting to pump brakes. But, if this evidence is well documented, then I'm sorry, pimpin'. You definitely would have to aim on the side of, this guy is a bit of a dangerous sociopath. Silva, in her attempt to stop prosecutors from upgrading charges, wondered how serious the sex assault of a 12-year-old girl really was beyond losing her virginity. Wow. Like I said earlier in the video, maybe Jersey should go to electing judges as opposed to them being political appointments, because there is this level of I don't give a that clearly has taken place here. But at the same time, the elected process has its own drawbacks. So I'm not sure. The separate appellate decision found the judges had not followed the law and had made inappropriate judgments. In Silva's case, they criticized her for minimizing the harm suffered by a preteen forced entry victim. Or I don't know the status of any of these cases that they're talking about. So like I don't know if they had the trial and everything else like that, and there was a conviction involved, but we'll go with what they're saying. In Toriano's case, they suggested he was exhibiting bias in favor of privileged defendants. The decisions did not say the judges deserved to face discipline. Very clear message. This section is more along the lines of them just chastising and saying that sexual assault survivors should be the sexual assault survivors should have an opening and should be taken seriously. Accusers should be taken seriously, and I want that to be very, very clear before we close this one out. They should be, but at the same time, they are still just an accuser. So to treat the the accused as if they are innocent does fall in line with our judicial process, because we are supposed to assume that innocence until the gavel's banged and the jury comes back and saying guilty, convicted. But this whole section right here is basically talking about how the state over the past few years, for all of history, hasn't really taken accusations very seriously. And that's where we draw a line, because I do believe accusations are to be taken seriously. Like if someone comes, if you are a law enforcement figure or something like that, accusations do need to be taken seriously. But as far as what's believed, we believe the evidence, and then when whatever evidence comes out and you get that in the judgment comes down from either the judge or the jury, that's what it is. All right. Protecting victims. Citing the comments by the three judges, lawmakers, and victims advocate calling for judges to get new training. I think we need new judges. Plain and simple. I don't think that they should be elected. I think that they should have to go underneath public scrutiny more than, give them a few training. Because I've done the whole corporate training thing, and I gotta say, hey, everybody's different. But for me, it's in one ear and out the other. I'll deal with whatever I got to deal with when I'm out there doing what I do. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a paid day off. But, I do see the point of making a big public show of it and saying, yeah, we're going to get them all this training and everything else like that. But, you can't train decency into a person, which is a large part of the reason I genuinely believe most things start at home. So we should the poverty rate in this state, particularly in the urban communities, is just astronomical, and it needs to change. And I got into a little bit of a back and forth with somebody because our media is really good at throwing us red meat. And oh my goodness, how could these judges and everything else like that? And it's all to distract from the fact that nothing's getting done when it comes to, actually trying to create better communities and restore our families. So, there's a lot to be taken away from here. I'm not really going into all the judge training and everything else like that, because it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I just wanted to cover this for a bit and, really put it out there that maybe New Jersey should start electing judges as opposed to it being a political appointment. I don't know, though. I don't have all the answers. So with that being said, all the internet stuff. If you liked it, toss a like or dislike. I ain't scared of you. Sub if you enjoy my fantastic voice and you want to catch videos like this every single day. Share, because sharing is caring, and YouTube's definitely not going to do that. And speak. Let me know, what do you think in the comments? What state are you from? Do you guys have appointed judges or elected judges? I can guarantee it's nowhere near Jersey's level of corruption and tomfoolery. So I'd be very interested to hear that in the comments. And until the next one.